Hi everyone. Now we are going to learn how to use object factories in mapper configuration so that abstract implementation can use the factories. Let's see the existing project. The existing project has a person_db object which has ID, name, first name, last name and date of birth. And the DTO which we are using for the two, it has the first name and last name. And the mapper is an interface and it has one method which converts the person_db object into person_dtu. And it's annotated with mapper and there is no specific mapper configurations, which means it uses the default mapping which goes by same field type and same field name. In our case, first name and last name is common for the person_db object and person_dtu and having the same data type which is string. So the implementation will have only the first name and last name. If you see the mapper implementation, person_dtu object has been created using the new keyword. And person_dtu first name and last name has been set using the db object. And it has a test case. It's a simple test case where the person object has been constructed and created a person_dtu using a mapper, then validated the first name and last name. Let's see how it runs. I just ran the test case and it has been success. Let's go back and create a factory for the person_dtu. There are two ways. It depends on where you create the object. In our case, I can define a custom method to create a person_dtu object and the mapper uses itself in the construction. Interface cannot have methods with body. In Java 9, it might be possible, but I am using Java 8. So let's construct this interface into a abstract class. Either interface or abstract class, the mapper annotation will ensure that implementation has been provided. Let's convert into a abstract class. Abstract class, and the method should be annotated with abstract. And save the file and see the implementation. There won't be any difference in the mapper implementation. And there won't be any difference in running the test case and its results. It's success. Let's go back to the mapper. Now, as it is an abstract class, I can create another method with body. So let's create public person_dtu create dtu instance. And it takes no parameters. Create dtu instance, I'm using a simple logic to create person_dtu object, which means I'm going to use new keyword to create person_dtu. Now let's save the file and see the implementation. Started using the method which we have created. Let's write a system out created from create dtu instance method. Now let's run the test case and we will understand from where it has been done. We see it has been created from the create dtu instance. There are few cases where you need to use the db object itself to construct person_dtu. For example, the person_dtu has age, integer age. In this case, the age will be calculated using the person_db object date of birth. So let's create a setter getter for this and update the toString method and format and save. As of now, implementation, there won't be any difference because there is no property age in person_db object. We need to calculate it. In this case, I will calculate the age and set it on the person DTO and return the object. So Mpastruct can use the same object to update rest of the properties. Let's calculate the age. Now to calculate the age, we need to have the person object. So let's start creating a method with person_db object. This is a simple logic which I have created, and we take the difference in millis and then we convert into the dates. And once we convert into the days, I'm converting into the years. Now let's create a variable for this %dto and set the age. %dto dot set age and difference in years. Now we need to convert long variable into integer. So let's convert into the integer using integer.parseInt, which takes a string. Let's convert into a string by prepending with empty string. This is a very simple logic. We can write very optimized and proper code. But for now, let's go with this and save the file. If you see the implementation, it didn't use the object factory. If you see the implementation, it has not created person_dto object using factory method, which is a create_dto instance. Why is that? Because Mpastruct uses the default one. It checks for the no argument method. But in our case, we have an argument, so we need to let the Mpastruct know that this is a object factory. That means from here, the objects would be created. So let's annotate with object factory. Once we annotate with, Mpastruct detects that this is one of the factory methods and it starts using it. So if we see it, it's used the create DTO instance with DB object. And as per our expectation, it would be create instance object would calculate the age and set it on the DTO object. The same object would be returned and the remaining first name and last name will be set at mapper implementation. Let's run a test. I'm going to make a small change over here to print DTO object. So I just added the DTO and let's run a test. Let's maximize the console, and if you see the person_dto as age property is being calculated and been set to a non-zero value, in our case 71. Let's not worry about whether it's been calculated properly or not, but it is being updated. Let's update the test case with asset not null of dto dot get age. In our case, the age would be calculated and it would be set. So let's run a test case. It's been success. Now we'll look at another implementation using external object factories. We'll not be using the factory methods part of the mapper. Instead, we'll be looking at external factories. So let's rename this mapper as mapper class. Rename the file as well. Now let's create the interface as person mapper. And annotate with mapper and save the file. Let's look at the mapper implementation where it will be creating the person_dto using the new. Now create a factory class person_dto factory public person_dto create person_dto return new person_dto. Let's save the file. Now look at the mapper implementation. Still mapper implements using the new keyword to create the person_dto. The reason the Mpastruct is not aware of the factory method. Let's annotate with object factory and save the file and let's look at the person mapper implementation. Still it doesn't know. The reason the Mpastruct scans through only the abstract classes or the interfaces which are annotated with mapper. So we need to let mapper know that it has to use this percentage object. As part of the mapper annotation, we have a couple of other properties which needs to be set. One of them is uses. The property takes array of classes, in our case, %dto factory dot class. Let's save the file and look at the person mapper implementation. Now, the Mpastruct constructs the %dto object using the %dto factory. And the %dto factory has been created as a final instance at mapper implementation. And it's been created using the new %dto factory. As of now, Mpastruct creates the factory objects using the new. There is no other way of creating it. So we must provide a default constructor for %dto object. Now let's calculate the age for this %dto as well. I'm copying the same logic from earlier example. %db object as db object. Let's save the file and look at the person mapper implementation. It is passing the db object and it's been created using the factory, and the factory will create an object and sets the age, and the first name and last name will be set by generated mapper implementation. Let's run the test case now. Now, if we observe, the %dto object has been created using the factory method and the age has been calculated. To summarize, now we have these two ways of using object factory methods at Mpastruct by creating the custom implementation for creating the %dto object and annotated with object factory. And another way is letting mapper know that %dto factory has been externalized by using uses property at mapper.